There are athletes who slip into the game like whispers, careful and quiet, making their contributions without leaving much trace on the world outside the box score. Then there are athletes who arrive with the force of a storm, with the kind of energy that cannot be ignored, whose very presence changes the atmosphere of a team, a program, or even a league. Sophie Cunningham is the latter through and through. Her story is not just about points scored or games played. It is about fire, identity, and the relentless refusal to shrink back in the face of challenges. Hers is a story of Missouri roots, family strength, unshakable faith, and a competitive fire that has turned her into one of the most distinctive figures in women's basketball today. From the very beginning, Columbia, Missouri was more than just a home for Sophie. It was the bedrock of her identity. Growing up in a close-knit family that valued both faith and fight, Sophie was immersed in a culture that stressed toughness, resilience, and authenticity. Basketball came early, but even earlier than that came the family bond. For the Cunninghams, sports were never simply about wins and losses. They were about character, about how you carried yourself when no one was watching, and about never backing down when the game got tough. Those lessons shaped Sophie before she even realized it, embedding in her the values that would define her career. As a kid, Sophie wasn't content to just play casually in the driveway or shoot around for fun. Every game, no matter how small, mattered to her. Her competitiveness was almost innate, and she quickly earned a reputation within her family for her stubborn refusal to accept defeat. Her older relatives, her siblings, and her peers all learned early on that Sophie Cunningham wasn't going to give an inch. That personality trait, equal parts endearing and exhausting, became her signature. When she carried it onto the basketball court, it gave her a fearlessness that stood out even when she was very young. She wasn't just another girl learning to dribble. She was a competitor from the moment she picked up the ball. By the time she reached Rockbridge High School, it was obvious to anyone who had watched her play that she was destined for something bigger. Rockbridge was a powerhouse in its own right, but Sophie elevated it to new levels with her play and her leadership. She wasn't just scoring. She was galvanizing teammates, setting standards, and demanding intensity. Her high school career was decorated with success, championships, and accolades, but what mattered most was the way she carried herself. She was loud, she was proud, and she was unapologetically fiery. Missouri high school basketball fans quickly learned that Sophie Cunningham didn't just play the game. She consumed it, radiating a kind of electricity that made her games feel like events. When the time came to choose a college, Cunningham had options, but in reality, the decision was never really in question. She chose to stay home, to wear the black and gold of the University of Missouri, and in doing so, she solidified her bond with her state and community. That choice was about more than basketball. It was about identity. Sophie wasn't running off to join an elite powerhouse somewhere else. She was saying to her state, her city, her family, "I'm going to do this here at home." That decision made her a symbol in Missouri before she even stepped onto the college court. At Mizzou, Cunningham became more than a basketball player. She became an icon. From her freshman year, she wasn't afraid to lead, to put herself in the center of the storm. She quickly established herself as one of the SEC's toughest players, unafraid to battle against bigger, stronger, or more established opponents. Her scoring ability, her confidence, and her versatility made her a nightmare matchup, but what really made her stand out was her energy. Sophie Cunningham was a player who could change the mood of an arena with a single gesture, a fiery celebration, or even a glare toward an opponent. Love her or hate her, you felt her presence. And that, in many ways, is what college basketball is all about, players who make you feel something. The SEC is no easy place to compete. It is loaded with talent, with programs that churn out WNBA-ready stars year after year. But Cunningham never flinched. She relished the challenge, treating each game as an opportunity to prove, once again, that she belonged in the conversation with the very best. Rivalries were fierce, and Sophie was always at the center of them. She played with a chip on her shoulder and a smile that sometimes infuriated opponents, but that combination made her one of the most compelling figures in the conference. She was named All-SEC multiple times, and by the end of her career, she had established herself as one of the most decorated players in Missouri basketball history. But statistics and awards only tell part of the story. What made Sophie Cunningham unforgettable at Mizzou was her spirit, the way she carried the program on her shoulders, and the way she embodied the fight of a community that had always prided itself on resilience. When her college career came to a close, it was bittersweet. Missouri fans had embraced her not just as a player, but as one of their own. She represented them in a way that few athletes ever do, and in turn, they gave her unwavering support. That relationship between Sophie and her home state was special, and it remains one of the defining elements of her story. She wasn't just from Missouri, she was Missouri. Every time she stepped on the court, she carried that identity with her. The WNBA awaited, and with it came a new challenge. The league is unforgiving, with the best athletes in the world condensed into 12 teams, where competition is fierce and margins are razor-thin. Sophie Cunningham was drafted by the Phoenix Mercury in 2019, entering a franchise known for its championship pedigree and its fierce competitors. For a rookie, that could be intimidating. For Sophie, it was the perfect fit. In Phoenix, she joined legends like Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner, players who embodied toughness and excellence, and she immediately set about proving she belonged. The transition wasn't easy. Every rookie has to adjust to the speed, the physicality, and the talent of the WNBA. But Sophie didn't shy away from the grind. She carved out her place as a role player first, bringing energy off the bench, defending with ferocity, and knocking down shots when called upon. What made her invaluable to Phoenix, though, wasn't just her production, it was her spirit. Sophie Cunningham brought the same edge to the WNBA that she had carried through high school and college. She was fiery, outspoken, and relentless. She wasn't there to blend in. She was there to fight. As the seasons passed, her role grew. Her shooting, especially from beyond the arc, became a weapon that Phoenix could rely on. She proved herself in clutch moments, hitting big shots when the Mercury needed them most. But perhaps her greatest contribution was her toughness. Cunningham became the kind of player opponents hated to face. She got under their skin, she played physical, she talked, she celebrated, and she never backed down. She developed a reputation as a player who could swing momentum not just with her scoring, but with her energy. That reputation made her a fan favorite in Phoenix and a lightning rod across the league. Off the court, Sophie's authenticity shone just as brightly. She has always been unapologetically herself, grounded in her faith, her family, and her Missouri roots. She's outspoken, but she's also approachable. Fans see in her a reflection of the values they admire: toughness, honesty, and heart. She doesn't pretend to be perfect or polished, she's real. And in a world where athletes are often packaged into brand-friendly sound bites, Sophie's authenticity has made her stand out even more. She is someone young fans can look up to not because she's flawless, but because she's fearless. The story of Sophie Cunningham is not yet finished, but already, her legacy is clear. She represents more than just her own journey. She represents the fire of Missouri basketball, the grit of players who refuse to back down, and the spirit of the WNBA as it continues to grow and fight for visibility. She is a reminder that sports are not only about talent. They are about energy, identity, and the courage to be yourself in every situation. For Sophie, that courage has made her not only a competitor, but a symbol of what it means to embrace the fight fully. Her journey will continue to evolve. There will be more games, more rivalries, more moments that test her resilience. But one thing will remain the same. Sophie Cunningham will never be the type of player to disappear quietly. She will continue to play with fire, to embrace her role as both beloved and hated, and to remind everyone who watches that basketball is at its best when it is played with heart and with edge. That is Sophie Cunningham, Missouri's own, Phoenix's spark, a competitor who cannot be ignored. Thank you for watching and joining us on this journey through the legacy of Sophie Cunningham, the fiery guard who carried Missouri on her back and lit up the WNBA with her relentless spirit. If her story inspired you, reminded you of the power of fight, or gave you hope that authenticity still has a place in sports, don't let it stop here. Like this tribute, if Sophie's fire moved you, share it with someone who loves the game, and subscribe so you never miss another story like this. Because athletes like Sophie Cunningham aren't just playing basketball, they're showing us how to live boldly, authentically, and with unshakable fight.